Hey guys, Mr. Dave here. Welcome to my Pool Noodle Puppet making workshop. Hope you guys are ready to have a lot of fun and work really hard and make one of these guys. This here is Eldun, and he's one of the stars of my show. And you can see he's a rod puppet and a pool noodle puppet. The mouth is activated by this trigger here, which is the metal skewer, which is on your buying stuff list. And you just pull it down and it opens his mouth.
And I'm really cool too.
He is really cool. Thanks. We're going to have a little bit more with Eldun later, but first, why don't we get started? Remember, be safe, parents, keep an eye on the little ones, and have as much fun as you can. Hello everyone, and welcome to How to Make a Pool Noodle Puppet. They're a really simple and easy, but durable and long-lasting puppet that I think you guys will enjoy making. So the very first thing you have to do is you have to get a pool noodle. Can't make a pool noodle puppet without a pool noodle, and you're going to need to cut it to length. So basically just how long or tall you want your puppet to be. You just need to make sure that there's room enough to fit the mouth mechanism, and we'll go over that in a little bit. The next thing you're going to need is actually a plunger. Sometimes I'll use the plungers as a nice stand for the base of the puppet when I'm not using it. However, any cheap plunger will do, or any kind of wooden handle that's about the same length and about the same width around as a plunger. The next thing you're going to need is something for eyes. I use googly eyes, and there's a reason I use googly eyes, because I have a ton of them. You're going to need some black duct tape or gaffer's tape, whichever you've got, or any duct tape will do. It doesn't have to be black. Most of these things here, aside from the razor and the glue gun and glue sticks, all of this stuff can be bought at a dollar store. In fact, all of this stuff did come from the dollar store. Even the soda tab, which was attached to the soda that it came off of. And this is a very important piece, which we'll go over in a little bit. You're going to need some felt, just small scraps, because this is for the mouth, and it's also not necessary. We'll go over the first way I used to make mouths, and now the way I make mouths, and you can pick which is easier for you. If you are a kid, please make sure you've got an adult around to handle the sharp stuff. If you've got a low temperature glue gun, I'm pretty sure you're probably qualified to handle it. However, I would like it if you had some parental supervision. The knives, the box cutters, or the really sharp blade that you need to cut the pool noodle to length and to cut the mouth open, that please have an adult do. And the last important piece is this guy right here. This is just a metal skewer. It's a kebab skewer, which I use as the mouth actuator. It's what opens and closes the mouth. Okay, the first thing we're going to go over is how to get the mouth. Now, you can do a straight mouth, straight across this way. I like to do curved mouths because they add a little bit of, just kind of give it a happy, smiley look to it, but it doesn't detract from being able to emote with the puppet. We'll just do a straight mouth on this sample piece so you can see what I'm talking about. Now, here's where the parent and or guardian comes into play. I always like to start where I want the mouth to be, and I cut out to one side, and then put over right at that opening part here, and I cut straight out to the other side. That makes a very basic straight mouth. La, 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 la. Now, once you've got the mouth cut however you like it, there's two ways to do this. When I first started, I used to take a big black Sharpie, and I would color in the black here, and you can see how I'm using the lump of the Sharpie as my guide, and that kind of gives it a lip. You can see how it matches up like that, and it just kind of gives it a lip, so it's not all the way solid black. That's just my preference. You can do it any way you want, and you can just go all the way around the noodle like that, however you like, and then you've got yourself a nice dark opening for the mouth. There's the new way I do mouth is I take the felt pieces and I start with a black piece. You can start with any color you want, really. And I actually put it into the mouth. I have them bite down on the felt with the mouth. And then I take myself a pair of scissors and I cut really close to the pool noodle all the way around. And what that does is it gives me a really good starting point. I've already got the shape, and then just a little bit more trimming. So if I just cut a little tiny bit smoothly off the edges here, and that takes care of that extra. And I also like to cut the corners right here, because those tend to stick out for some reason when you finally put it in. And then I open up the mouth. See, look at that. Glue it down, and it gives me a nice inside mouth shape. But before you put that in, you want to make your tongue. The easiest way to make a tongue is kind of cut a strip the width that you want it to be, and then kind of just eyeball it. You can see, now, I mean, that's a square tongue. Now, you can have a square tongue if you want. There's no rules in puppetry. It can be anything you want, anything you can imagine. But just round out those corners a little bit. And you got yourself a good little tongue. You glue those two pieces together, and then you glue it into the mouth. I have a piece over here that I have already cut and shaped for this piece here, which I pre-cut a mouth, and you can see I made a smiley mouth on this one. Now I glued down the tongue. All I did was just a little T shape on the back of the tongue and stuck it down. The edges are still up there a little bit, but it's not really a huge deal. And I'm going to glue that piece in just like that. So here we go. If you've got a high heat one, I recommend that the grown-ups do this. If you have a low heat one, then I guess that's up to your own discretion. And just a little bit of glue on the back here to start. I want to hurry up because this is a low heat one. And I'm going to fit it right into the mouth area. And glue it down. And I like the low temp glue guns because they dry really quickly. There we go. So now it's glued in the back. And now I'm just going to glue it in the front here. Great thing about glue guns and pool noodles is pool noodles are porous once you cut them, which means they have a lot of holes. So there's lots of places for the glue to get in. Now I'm not going to do a super great job gluing this down because this is just a demo. But if I were making a puppet for the show, I'd glue all the way around like crazy. But there you go, and see, look how nice that mouth looks. Isn't that nice? Now, once you've got your mouth done how you want it, you can start worrying about your eyeballs. Now, googly eyes are super duper easy. You can see I have a whole mess of them. Now, there's a couple of ways I do googly eyes too. You can either just take a couple of googly eyes, whatever you like, whatever color, and, you look where the mouth is, you center it, and you can either put it on the back of the eye or you can put it on the noodle where you want it, and then you can just stick it down and do it again for the same guy, same side. Oh, this is another trick actually that I really like, is because pool noodles are squishy, you can just kind of sneak the gun. I'm holding it down with my thumb. You can sneak the glue gun in behind and squirt and lay it down. See, it holds. See, fun little simple easy puppet, and he's got Google eyes. Now, there's another way to do this, and this is where, again, the sharp stuff comes into play. So I'm going to ask that the adult step in, but you can take your straight edge, your blade here, your knife, your sharp, and you can very slowly start with the tip, poke in. This is something I like to do with my Pool Noodle Puppets, is very carefully go around the edge as close to the white of the googly eye as you can, and cut off the lens of the googly eye. The lens comes free of the white. And there we go. See the lens now. The lens here is free, and there's the white. Now what I like to do with these is the part that I cut the lens off of, I flip it over, and that's the side I use to glue onto my face where I want it. Then squirt some glue, hold it down, get rid of the glue hair. That's what I call those strings of glue that come. And then you take the pupil and you place it where you want the pupil to be. Squirt down your glue. Now you can use a marker to mark where you want the pupil to go so you get the right placing of it, or you can just kind of eyeball it, which is what I'm doing. Eyeball it, get it? You can see that makes for a not googly shaky eye, but it's still a really nice looking eye. Great thing about glue guns is you've got a couple of seconds of, whoops, I put that in the wrong place, and you can adjust it if you want to. Now you can see I've got my mouth, I've got my eyes, and this is your basic Pool Noodle Puppet. Now we get into the mechanics of the Pool Noodle Puppet. Now what I'm going to do really quick is I'm going to clear up my table here so you have a nice clean space to look at what I'm doing. Okay, ready? All right, so I've got my nice clear space, and now is where I get my plunger. You're going to want to take the plunger part right off the bottom. Now, you've got a couple of choices here. If you want to use the plunger as a stand later, you want to have the screw part down at the bottom so it's exposed, it's not inside the puppet head. Otherwise, you can just use that end. If you don't plan on using it as a stand, then you can just stick that end up. Now I'm going to plan on using this guy with the stand. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put this end inside. Now, there is a mouthpiece in here that we glued down, and that's kind of your guide to know when to stop. So now that's just touching that felt underneath the tongue and the mouth that's right there. Some glue hair. Now I know that that's where the puppet's going to sit. That's how much stick is going to go in there. So I'm going to take another Sharpie or a pen or a pencil, and I'm just going to mark it really quick. Right here. That's where I know it's going to go. That's how low down it's going to be. You can see that it's not a tight fit. Depending on the plunger. I know the plungers that I get at the dollar store I go to aren't quite thick enough to sit happily inside there. So that's where your tape comes into play. Nice, strong, steady tape. And all this is really going to do is just going to take up some of that extra room. And I put a piece up at the top. And you can see it's not super long. It's just enough to kind of take up the room. And it doesn't need to be pretty because you're not going to see it. In fact, if it's got a little a bevel like this where it rolls up, that's actually going to make putting it into the pool noodle much easier. So I've got one there, and this is why I had that there, that mark. So I know that's where my tape needs to go to make it so it doesn't shift around on the bottom. Here. There we go. So now I've got the tape on there, and I just kind of twist it in. You can see it's a much snugger. You can hear the pool noodle squeaking. That means it's a tight fit. Squeaky pool noodle. There you go. And it's in, and that's on there nice and snug. Now, this is not the only method that we're going to use to hold the puppet down, but this is the first and probably most important. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just work a little bit. I pull that up under there, you can see, and I'm just going to stick my glue gun right in there, and I'm going to give her a couple of squirts, just as kind of an extra little bit of holding down. Okay, so he's on there, he's glued on there, he's on there pretty stable, but there's one more thing I found in using these pool noodles is even though you've got the tape, even though you've got that little bit of glue, it's not always perfect, it's not always permanent. So I developed what I call a skirt, and I'll show you what that is. Okay, so I'm going to take another section of pool noodle here, and now I'm going to take my sharp, so this is another thing where, you know, the adults should be doing this, and I'm just going to cut a slot down the back of the pool noodle piece. One here, and then I'm going to make another opening. I'm going to make it a wide opening. Boom, just like that. Now this I found that these guys, these pieces here, don't throw those away because you can use these for decorative pieces. I have a couple of characters where these are like ear nubs on robots. I've got one character, Eldun, who I'm going to bring on a little bit later, who this is actually what his hair piece is made of. So I'm going to put this to the side. And this is my skirt. So what I do with this is I actually put glue in here, and then I'm going to put it right at the bottom of the puppet, trying to line this up with the exact back of the puppet, like that. And that just gives it a little bit more extra because of the way the talking mechanism works. It pulls downward on the puppet. So this kind of gives it that extra bracing that it needs to keep it from falling apart. I'm stretching it open with my hand. You don't have to do that. That just makes it easier for me. And I'm just going to go glue crazy. Glue crazy. And then just a little bit up here. And stick right on there. Now I can't stress enough that gluing. Now this is just something I do too here because I like to put a line of glue here. That is not working. And a line of glue here. And it just kind of gives it that little bit of extra hold on to it, you know. Now again, this is a quick version. It's not perfect, but it'll do. And that really keeps the puppet from moving at all, this little skirt piece. There's a reason why it's got such a wide opening in the back, and we're going to get into that next, because of the skewer, the talking mechanism. So the way these work is, this actually is going to be bent and fed into the back of the top of the head of the puppet, up here. And when you pull down like a trigger, it opens and closes the mouth. However, this is a metal skewer. This is a pool noodle. You need something to keep it from just tearing straight through. And that's where the soda tab comes into play. The soda tab acts like a little guard to protect the pool noodle foam from getting torn. And it doesn't really matter which way you put it on. Right side up, upside down, doesn't matter. I try to put the pokey sharp part into the foam and then just use a whole ton of glue and just glue it down. Down there. And then, like really just get it glued on there really well. And grown up, if you've got the, you smear it, just get that really covered and coated. So that's on there nicely. So you can see that that's really glued on there, nice and solid. This is what is going to make your puppet work, and this is what's going to protect your puppet from breaking. Okay, so we've got the soda tab glued on. Also, it doesn't have to be a soda tab. I've used washers in the past. Just as long as it's something hard, you can use, if you've got small wood pieces, I suppose you could use like large flat beads, something that will allow this to go into the pool noodle without tearing and keeping it from tearing. Okay, so this is my skewer. Now, I personally, you don't have to, but I just kind of pinched this in so there wasn't much of a gap there. And I try to put the gap to the back of the puppet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece here and I'm actually going to bend it in two pieces, almost like a digital J kind of shape, using my tiny crescent wrench. And then this one bend there, you don't want this part to be too deep, because if it is, then it can actually poke into the mouth of the character. You don't want that to happen. And then about 2 wrench widths, give or take, wide. And then one more bend, but not a full 90 degrees. You want it to be, you want it to be an oblique, you want it to be wide. And then what you do is you just poke it right into the foam, into your hole, in the hole in between, down through and in. Ta-da! Now you can see it kind of sticks out like this. That's not ideal. So I always go in about here and I bend it down in a little bit. See, that puts it at a good place. And you pull the trigger And the mouth opens. Now you can hear all that clacking that's happening. That's the trigger up against the wood. I got a little trick for that too. Again, not necessary, but it's nice if you've got the time and you've got felt. You take a scrap piece of felt, and actually I'll just use the piece that I was gonna make that I showed the mouth with. And on the inside edge here, where you want your finger to go, you just put, see how I've got it wrapped around? It stretches the felt a little bit. And then all you do is once you've got it where you want it to be, open it up, back to Mr. Glue Gun, and just glue gun. Lots of glue. We love hot glue guns. And once you got the glue down, just pinch it. What this does is it actually pads this a little bit for your finger, and once you've trimmed it down, there we go. Now you can see, it doesn't need to be pretty. Again, the audience doesn't see that. That's for your puppet to work. Put this back in, and look what happens. Much quieter, and it keeps you from getting rub sores from using the puppet. So that's it, really. You've got your basic pool noodle puppet. You can use it facing you, so I can look at the camera if I'm backwards, and you can use it front facing like this. So if I'm looking away from the camera, like, hello, hello. And yeah, that's basically it. Now, I tend to cover these with black tape or black felt, so if for some reason it pops above the view line, it's just black there. But otherwise, they're really nice and easy and operable and fun puppets, and they last a while. And, like I said, you can use the plunger as a storage stand. Isn't that fun? So thank you guys very much for watching my workshop. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you rush out to your nearest dollar store and buy yourself some stuff to go make yourself a pool noodle puppet, because they're a lot of fun. They're really easy to use. They're very kid friendly, and they're really, really cheap to make. Thanks so much, and see you guys later. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Hello? Hello? Huh? 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 Oh, hello. I was told I was gonna be featured, but nobody came and got me. Oh well. I hope to see you guys watching Fun Time with Mr. Dave on YouTube. Just search Mr. Dave with an exclamation mark. Otherwise, see you later. Go this way.